Welcome to the Student of the Game podcast, where we break down the life, strategy, and advice of successful individuals who are students of their own game and masters of their own craft. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to the episode.
This episode of the Student of the Game is brought to you by our sponsors, Communication VIP Training and Coaching. Need coaching to improve your public speaking, sales pitches, interviews, or presentation skills, or just get rid of those ums? My man Vincent has got you covered. Contact the communication experts at Communication VIP. This will be in our show notes so you can contact them. And let's get back to the episode.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Student of the Game podcast. I'm Tim Stone here with Ian Cushing. Today we've got a special guest, Mr. Matt Dira. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Matt is the Vice President of Client Relationships.
Executive Vice President of Client Relations, yes, at
Croft and Frost. Yes, so We're excited to have him. He's going to tell us a little bit about what that means and how he helps people build courage and create wealth. So first, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to what you're doing.
I mean, how far do you want to go back?
Go back to your younger years when you were a little bit younger than we are right now. 21 years old.
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania in a town called Latrobe, which Latrobe has an interesting history. Arnold Palmer is from there, which that's pretty cool. I caddied for Arnold Palmer as a kid.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Rogers, I'm sure everyone's familiar with Mr. Rogers. So Mr. Rogers and Arnold Palmer went to the same high school. They were a couple years apart, but same high school. I played basketball a lot with Mr. Rogers' nephew. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania playing all kind of sports. Sports was a big part of my life. Still is to some degree, even though I'm a lot older and don't participate in organized sports much anymore. But yeah, sports were a big part of my life. I went to college to play football. I also was a golf professional for a number of years. I turned pro when I was just after college. I was not a touring pro. I was what's called a club professional. So I did a lot of teaching and I worked at clubs, higher end clubs. There's a club in Richmond and then there's a club in South Florida. The one in South Florida is typically top 10 in the world. That was a very fun experience. And that exposed me to what extreme wealth is. So that was a master's degree in life just by watching these guys operate. Yeah. I got to play golf and hang with people that, frankly, 22-year-old Matt had no business being around.
So you got to learn a lot of lessons about money and life and success while playing the sport you love and getting paid to do it.
It's true. One story sticks out in my head. I got to play golf with Jack Welch.
Okay.
And I was 22 or 23. To be honest, I had no idea who he was. I knew he was somebody because he was a member at this club. And so I play golf with him and another dude who's a legend. His name is Vinny Giles. He's a legend inside the golf community. And I'm 43 now. If 43-year-old Matt teed it up with that group, I wouldn't have got the ball on the tee. But 22-year-old Matt had no idea.
No idea.
I
don't know who that is. Is he a golfer?
Vinny Giles is one of only, I think, 2 or 3 men to ever walk this planet who has won the U.S. Am and the British Am. He was also a member of several Walker Cup teams. He was a Walker Cup captain. The Walker Cup is the Ryder Cup for amateurs. So that's a big deal. And then he made his fortune. He was an agent for professional golfers. Okay. So his life was golf, and he's a legend. He's still alive. He's still a legend.
Cool. So after your professional golf career, where did you go, and where did you end up after that?
Yeah, so I enjoyed that part of my life. It was fun. I packed up everything I owned and I put it in my Mazda Millennia, and I drove from Richmond, Virginia to South Florida down like near West Palm Beach. And I did that every 6 months. So naturally, I didn't have a lot of stuff because I had to put everything in the car and then drive. But I knew I enjoyed it, but I knew that it was temporary. I didn't want to do that when I was 50 years old. I knew that. I didn't have a family at the time, but having one was something that I just thought was important to me. And it's hard to do that. Not impossible, but very hard to do that when you're packing up a car and leaving every 6 months. So, to be honest, word kind of got out that I was looking to do something else.
Yeah. Was that a golf thing that was taking you back and forth from Richmond and Florida?
Yeah. There was a club in Richmond. There was a club in Florida that I was pros at. I was going back and forth every 6 months. And then word got out amongst the membership that I was looking to do something else. So I was lucky. I had a bunch of job offers really without interviewing. And I got into the insurance business. I was probably 24, 25 years old. And I got into the insurance business selling life insurance with Northwestern Mutual. And I did that. I stayed there for like 9 years. I enjoyed it there. I grew up in the insurance business there. I got a full understanding of what it took to succeed there. I built a pretty nice practice there too. And then I think I kind of outgrew it because I was doing a lot of things outside of that. And then I went independent. I went independent in 2009 and opened what is called now the Dira Group.
Was that your first real exposure to sales when you got into insurance?
Yeah. I'd say so. Formally, yes. I mean, in the golf business, I was still selling. It was fairly easy because you're dealing with clientele who are there, who have money and want your stuff anyway. They're going to buy it whether you help them or not.
Mm-hmm.
But actually marketing and selling, yes, Northwestern was my intro to that.
Yeah.
And go ahead of you.
Do you think like being involved in so many sports really like transferred to business and kind of that mentality? Do you think that's helped you along the way?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like all my life, I played a sport, and there's a certain level of responsibility when you play a sport. And when you're good at that sport, then there's more responsibility on you because you have to carry the team as a leader. So there's even more. So just doing what was required it didn't seem like work because I liked to do it anyway. It was play for me. So doing it really didn't register as work. And that just became kind of who I was, like doing the extra stuff, the liftings, the runnings, the studying. It didn't bother me. And it built that discipline muscle that I think is one of the main reasons why I'm successful today.
I think that's such a common trait with people who grew up playing sports is you have that ferociousness to go after stuff. You never let anything hold you down, especially transferring that to sales. It's just like, oh, you're unbeatable.
Yeah. You learn a lot of lessons from sports. And I think that's a really important thing to get involved with, or some sort of team aspect. Is that something that you're trying to instill in your children?
Yeah, no doubt. I encourage them to play sports. They don't have to do it, but I encourage it. I was just talking to JD about this the other day. One of the lessons my parents taught me was I was never allowed to quit, ever. Didn't matter. If I said I was going to do something, I had to do it. And there's a few instances that stick out in my head where I really wanted to quit. And I voiced my opinion. I'm like, I want to quit this. One time it was something silly I was doing. I was drawing. I liked to draw as a kid. And I was a fan of the Michigan Wolverines. So I was drawing the Wolverine, and it just wasn't turning out right. And I wanted to throw it away. And my dad's like, no, man, you got to finish that. He's like, you can start it over, but you've got to finish it. I ended up finishing it. It was one of the nicer things I ever drew, but I wanted to give up on it. And then there was another instance where it was actually during a sport. We had these things when I grew up. It was called the Elks National Hoop Shoot. It was a free throw shooting competition. Did they have that where you guys grew up?
Mm-mm.
No.
So there's this free throw shooting competitions where you get like you start locally, and if you win that one, you advance and advance and advance. And I remember, I think we were at the States, and I had done well to get there. You had to win one or two competitions to get there. So I was there, and there was this one kid that I saw his kid every year, and he was really good. In my mind, this kid never missed. So we're warming up, and my dad's underneath the basket, and he's rebounding for me, bouncing it back to me. I'm not even paying attention. I'm more watching this other kid, and I'm like, dude, this kid's not missing. I can't win. He doesn't miss. So I'm getting, I'm a kid. I don't think I'm a teenager yet. Maybe I'm 12, 13. And I'm getting emotional, and I'm getting mad. We're not even in the competition yet. And my dad took me like under the bleachers and had to have a talk with me. He's, about quitting. He's, you're not allowed to quit. You're here. And I was like, but I'm never going to beat that kid. And my dad, I remember him saying this. I can still see his face. He goes, I don't know if you've noticed, you haven't missed yet either. But I was so focused on what somebody else was doing that it was distracting me from what I needed to be doing. And so that lesson I take with me too. One, I can't quit. And two, you can't worry about what other people are doing. I can't compare myself. Like if you're focused and you're doing what you should do, you're good enough.
That's great. That's a good lesson there through that. And I was thinking about the drawing of the Wolverine, and at the time, such an insignificant thing that it's just a drawing. It doesn't matter if I don't finish it, but the fact that your father made you finish it, and now that's a lesson that you've learned and you remember it as an adult, even though at the time it was probably such an insignificant thing. It's this piece of paper I'm going to stop drawing on.
I'll have to bring it up to him, but there's no way he remembers that.
Yeah, but you remember it, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so that now when I'm parenting my kids, like I recognize that it's these little insignificant moments that could have impact on them. So, I'm not perfect, certainly, but I remind myself daily to, one, be patient with them, which I'm not great, but I'm getting better. And two, like I never know what they're going to remember, so I better be good all the time.
Mm-hmm. Kids will remember a lot.
They do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear the stories like when they're my age. I can't wait to hear the stories that they share about me. They're gonna roast me, I'm sure. Like we roast my dad and my mom, and it's fun. And they don't remember half the stuff that we're talking about. So I look forward to the day when they're roasting me about the life lessons I was trying to teach.
Mm-hmm. And they're growing up in the era where dad has TikTok and everything's recorded.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Dad's not cool. Dad, I take so much joy in embarrassing my children. So much joy.
So let's talk about when you started Dira Group and you were selling insurance, and how did that progress towards Croft and Frost? What was it like going out on your own first?
Going out on my own was pretty difficult. I remember leaving Northwestern. They escort you out of the building.
Really?
I think it's just for compliance reasons. I don't know why. And I remember being very emotional leaving there, although it was my choice to do this. And I remember thinking, man, am I making the right choice? And then, it was extremely difficult. You're starting from scratch. I left a lot of money on the table when I left Northwestern, a lot of money. So I had, not only was I starting over, I was starting negative because I had what's called in the insurance business renewals, and it was pretty significant. And I left them. So I left a lot of money just on the table. And it was a struggle. So I think I left in June. I think it was June 1st. And my first child was born at the end of July. So there was a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I handled the pressure well. But I'm still here.
Yeah, you seem to have made it through.
Yeah. And then how I got connected to Croft and Frost was really just through JD. Paul had a major influence on me on me being here, because I don't think JD knew what to do with me. Although I was drawn towards JD. But Paul and I have similar backgrounds. He actually started in the insurance business at Northwestern.
At Northwestern Mutual, yeah.
Right. So we had that in common. So Paul was like, hey, I think we need to bring this guy in. JD's like, man, we don't need any more. Now I talk to JD every day. And JD and I are similar in some ways, in which like we both like discipline and structure and order. So we complement each other in some of those ways.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, the personal development side and the structure. And I know you're big on tracking everything. You're constantly posting. The stuff that gets tracked is what improves.
Yeah.
So where's your mindset on your personal development, daily routines, habits, those kind of things?
Everything that's important to me, there's a number written down every day, not every week. It's every single day. I track all my calls. I track my income. I track expenses. I even track, was I patient this day? Everything is, and if I'm not, I don't get that check mark at the end of the day, and I want that check mark. So it stemmed from in my early 20s to mid 20s. Now maybe let's say mid 20s to 30. I was a wreck. I was a complete disaster because I went from being very structured because of sports, but it was forced upon me, to then leaving, and now all of a sudden I've got all this freedom. I didn't handle the freedom well because I didn't put the disciplines and the structure in my life. It wasn't there anymore. So until I figured out I needed to instill that, I needed to put them in there instead of a coach putting it in there. When I figured out that I needed to do it, and it started with a book called The Compound Effect. So a friend of mine sent me that book, and it is still today my favorite book of all time. That book changed my life. It made a massive transformation seem within reach because I only had to do one thing. Mm-hmm. That was easy for my mind to do. And what the one thing was reading 10 pages a night. So in that book, Darren Hardy, who wrote that book, one of the things he says to do is read 10 pages a night and to listen to audiobooks when you're driving around instead of listening to the radio. So those are the two things that I did. And then that led to another thing, and that led to another thing. And then it led to tracking. And just over time, the transformation it happened so slow.
It's the compound.
I didn't see it. And then I started having people react to me differently. And then that was eye-opening. And then I'm like, oh, I'm on something here. And then my income started going up. And then it was just a bunch of little stuff. And then I track all my workouts. I've tracked my workouts for more than 10 years, probably 12, 14 years, something like that. And just having an understanding of what is required. Like if you have a baseline in your mind, that standard becomes your standard. I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I love Mike Tomlin, and he has a saying that's called "the standard is a standard." Right. So my standard is to make a certain amount of calls every day. Now I do give myself some grace because some days things happen, and you can't get to it that day, but you still have the week. So I never let my average go below that number. So that is my standard. It will never go below that number because the standard is the standard.
Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I can't seem to get away from the compound effect. So yeah. I'd seen some people recommend it, and then I saw it on Audible, and it was included with the membership. So I downloaded it and I listened to it. And as I'm listening to the first chapter, I open Facebook on my phone and I see someone post about the compound effect. Mm. And then I can't remember what else, but I had someone mention it to me. And then last night I went to a real estate meetup and someone mentioned the book. And then just now you just mentioned it. And I think Rocky mentioned it this morning on our call as well.
Rocky did mention it. I recommended it to Rocky. He's listening to it right now. And he had some takeaways for the team this morning. I have that book has shaped me in a way that no other book has shaped me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something about it, and the amount of times I have run into that book this past month just shows the impact and influence it has had on people. Because it's like it seems like it's everywhere now, and it's not a new book.
It's not a new book. No.
I think And it may have to do with it. It's January 3rd now. People have been getting into goals and mindset.
So I carry this book. It's in my bag at all times, and I'm looking to see what year it was printed.
I've never heard of this book until today, but I wrote it down. I want to get it now. You said it's on Audible?
It is on Audible. If you have the membership, it's free right now. I don't know if they change them out, but I didn't have to pay for it.
I can't.
And then actually, the lady that was talking about it to me last night told me about this app called Hoopla, which lets you get free audiobooks as long as you have a library membership. You can get a Chattanooga library membership for free online. You don't even have to go in.
Oh, that's great. This book was printed in 2010. So it's a 12-year-old book now.
Yeah, and it's everywhere.
I mean, it's timeless, in my opinion. I mean, I think the advice on here is the advice is not just business. It's more life advice. Like, I took a lot of things from this book for my personal relationships, and it has shaped those relationships too. One of the things it says in there is whatever you want more of, give more of that. So if you want more love, give more love. If you want more money, give more money. Whatever it is you want, you need to give more of that, and it will return to you.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think things work that way?
I mean, on the love side of it, I think that when you show somebody love, you're more.
It's easier to love.
It's way easier. Yeah. And kindness too. Like, if you're kind to somebody, they're going to be kind. They're going to be kind back to you. It goes negative too. I mean, the compound effect is always working. It's either working for you or against you. Mm-hmm. So if you're rude to somebody, you're going to get more of that back to you, and it will compound. And then you'll be upset, and you'll come home and you'll be rude. And then the kids will be rude to you. And it compounds. Everything is compounding. So my level of awareness with things like that is I am so aware that the compound effect is always working, that that thought never leaves my mind. Like, even like fitness and diet. Like, I don't diet, but I'm very aware of what I eat, because I know if I eat too much, sugar has a very negative impact on me. But I love sugar. Love it. But I'm very aware of how much I'm eating, because I do know that compound effect is coming.
Right. Because if you eat sugar this week, it won't do anything to you. You won't look different at all. No. But if you eat sugar every week for a month, maybe it won't even do anything.
For
Give
me,
it a year.
Super lethargic, man. It's hard for me to get going. It affects my energy in a very negative way.
Yeah, it reminds me of someone. I heard a video recently. They're saying, you want to get in shape, you can't just work out for 5 hours. It's not going to fix it. Mm-hmm. It's working out every day for 20 minutes is what will fix it. Right?
Yeah,
so that's a little bit of compounding right there.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the consistency is super. I mean, just in life, it's just so important. Just show up every day. I mean, if you want to be good at something, just got to show up. Just got to show up. And then I hear my coach's voice in my head. Like, if we're just going to talk about going to the gym, like, just show up. And then I can hear him in my head screaming, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And my thought was, man, if I'm here, I might as well work. I'm already here. Let's do something about it, because I don't want to get worse. So if I'm here, let's work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and go ahead.
I was about to transition. So if you're gonna,
I was gonna talk about in the book how you were saying that the compound effect goes both ways, and it gives an example of these guys where one guy decides he's gonna like eat a little bit better and work out a little bit and read 5 pages a night, and then another guy, he's like, I'm gonna eat a little more fatty food and I'm not gonna work out and all this. It's like 6 months in, and they all look like
watch the cooking show, right? And
cooking 6 months in, they all look like the same person, and then 18 months in, it's like they're so far on different ends of the spectrum. And then how it's negatively affecting his life because he's eating worse, so he's lethargic, he's doing bad at work, and just doing bad at work just goes negatively into every other aspect of his life, just by, like you said, deciding to watch the cooking channel instead of reading a book.
Right. Yeah. So that example was in my head when I started reading this book. Like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this one thing, which is reading and listening in the car. I'm going to do it. And in my head, I'm like, just get to 18 months. Take a look back. Just get to 18 months. And when I did look back, like there was a pretty significant difference, but it wasn't like I had in my mind like there was going to be this huge, massive. I'm a different person. You will not recognize me, and I was going to be making $4 million a year or whatever. That didn't happen, but it was the stepping stone to more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I want to hear more about. I was going to transition back when you were talking about putting in all that work. I was going to say, okay, well, would you tell us more about your work? Okay, so I know you work at Croft and Frost, but I want to know more about what your day to day looks like.
My day to day is very similar to what you and I are doing right now. Every time Tim sees me, I'm sitting in this chair.
Mm-hmm.
So I sit in this chair and I talk to clients all day long. I have a lot of Zoom calls with clients, helping them with the 4 foundations of wealth creation. And we believe the more we communicate with clients, what we found is the more we communicate, the more often, and the ones who are following the 4 foundations and in the correct order, those are the ones that are having the most success. So that's my job. I have a great job. It's actually very fun. So my job is to help make you wealthy.
Yeah.
No one's mad when they talk to me. I may have to fix a few problems from time to time, and that's okay, because the world isn't perfect and we aren't perfect as a company, and that's okay. But my job is to help make you wealthy.
So tell us about the 4 foundations of wealth creation, and what is it like? What does Croft and Frost do? Like, what kind of services do they provide?
Yeah, perfect. So the 4 foundations of wealth creation, 1, are to increase your monthly income. The easiest way to increase your monthly income is to write your goals down twice a day. All right. So then you become more aware of what you're doing. Because if you write down something like, hey, I want to be whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. I want to pick a number, $100,000 a year. And then you write that down in the morning, that will motivate you to do what's necessary to reach that goal. And on my list of goals, they're not all money or work related. There's a lot of family stuff on there. There's fitness stuff on there. There's professional stuff on there. There's a lot of things on there that I write down every day that don't have anything to do with money. But I'm just using that as an example. Then when you go to bed at night, you write it down again. And something happens when you write things down before you go to bed. I do believe that. I think your mind works on that while you're sleeping. There's oftentimes if I have a problem or something's going on, I'll wake up with a whole bunch of clarity when at night I had no idea how to handle that problem. And I'll wake up in the morning, it's very easy. I can see it very clearly now. So number 1, increase your monthly income. Easiest way is by writing your goals down twice a day. The second foundation of wealth creation is to do tax planning to limit your tax liability. Because when you increase your income, what you're doing is increasing your your taxes as well. We are reducing those tax liabilities. So Croft and Frost, we are at our core CPAs. I am not a CPA, but we as a firm, our top of the funnel, so to speak, are tax returns. And we believe if we can lower your tax liability, now you have more money to start creating wealth. But you can't do that until you increase your income. That's why they're in that order. The third foundation is to protect that income using life insurance while creating tax-free wealth. I won't get into the weeds about it, but there's a cool tax code that's wrapped around life insurance that says any money inside life insurance will remain tax-free, gross tax-free, and you can pull it out tax-free. So the wealthiest people on this planet have a lot of money in life insurance, and when structured and designed properly, can have a massive impact on your wealth. And then the fourth foundation of wealth creation is to invest in others and yourself and to create passive income. We do that. We have a real estate fund that Tim is heavily involved in. I am also heavily involved in that. I invest in that. we've invested a lot in that as a family, and it produces cash flow every month. I get paid on that. And I've always wanted, I knew I wanted to be in the real estate game at some level. But to be honest, man, I did not know how to go find the deal. I didn't know how to recognize the deal. If I did recognize it, like, all right, how do I find the debt? How do I service it? How do I find investors? I didn't know how to do all that stuff. I don't know that I even wanted that kind of risk. So what JD has done with the well fund, he's provided all of that stuff for us. He's done all the work along with Tim. Tim's integral in the well fund. So all that work is done. We're just investing in getting the returns without doing all that front end legwork. So those are the 4 foundations of wealth creation. And that's what I get to talk about every day.
Yeah. How many times a day do you think you go through those 4 foundations?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I couldn't. Every conversation I have, or I'm talking about one of those foundations. And if it's a new conversation, I'm having basically the dialogue that we just had. I'm having that dialogue. Sometimes the conversation is steered in a certain way, but pretty much every one of my conversations is that what we just talked about.
Yeah, and that's why we're able to help so many people. I feel like is at least one of the 4 you're probably struggling with. If not, you're probably very wealthy and like you're in a good position. And yeah, you can always get more passive income and do the life insurance and create more wealth. But one of the 4, someone's at least missing all of them.
That's the coolest part about what we do, because we can help anybody, any age, any income level or wealth level. We can help somebody who's massively in debt with low income. We can help them with the Onward Accelerator program. It's $197 to join that, to get around people like us, like JD, excuse me. And it's every other week on a Zoom call. And we're getting ideas. Our mission is to change the way you think. And if you're around the same people all the time, you're not going to change the way you think. And if you're in massive debt with low income, I think you need to change it because it's not working. And then we, on the complete other end of the spectrum, we can help people with huge incomes reduce their tax liability and create more wealth for them using the life insurance piece is a big part. The wealthier you get, that becomes more and more a part of your plan.
Yeah. And I was talking to JD the other day, and he's like, we're in the business that everybody can't escape, death and taxes. Right. Like everybody's got to pay taxes. Everyone's going to die. So we help people save money on taxes and protect their family from death with life insurance.
That's right.
That's a good position to be in as a business, and you are literally able to help at least every American in our situation.
For sure. For sure. No doubt. Yeah.
So a big thing with Croft and Frost is training, and every day, consistently training skills, your sales skills. What is like one of the biggest things you've learned as far as sales during your training that you've been able to work on and that has benefited you?
Before I met JD, I bought Cardone University for my company. And that was in like the fall of 17, I think. It might have been the fall of 18. It was the fall before the big event he had in Miami in Marlins Park. So whenever that was. So I started training on Cardone U around that time. And it was so uncomfortable. Because role playing was a big deal. We had to role play. I hated it. Absolutely hated role play. It was uncomfortable. I was terrible at it. I didn't want to do it. But I kept training and I kept push and play every single day. And then some of the stuff that he said started to get in my head. Then the role play became easier because I knew how to handle that objection. And I knew some things weren't an objection. It was just a complaint. I did not understand at first when I started training. I didn't understand what he said about just agree with him. The first rule of selling is agree. I didn't quite grasp what that meant. What it means is if they say the sky is green, they're not lying to you. That's their perspective. So you just agree with them. You may not agree with them, and that's okay. You're agreeing that that's what they believe. And if you start by the disagreement, you're never going to get to a close. They're never going to agree to a close. So getting over objections, understanding how to handle those objections, understanding which one was a complaint and not an objection, just say, yeah, no, it's a lot of money. What we sell can be a lot of money. And I hear people all the time, man, that's a lot more than I'm paying my current CPA. And that's a lot of money. Like, you're right. It is a lot of money.
I hear that that's actually a really great way to sell. Is like before you sell them, say like, hey, this is going to be very expensive. And either they're going to be like, oh, that's not so bad. Or they'll be like, well, he wasn't lying. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's so powerful if you have like an expensive product at least.
Yeah. The funny thing is about what we do is, yes, you may pay our fee and it may be higher than what you're currently paying your CPA. But I would encourage everybody to go look at what their tax bill is, add that to what they're paying their CPA, then tell me if we're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. We're not. Like, I paid JD way more than I paid my CPA. And I do it happily every year.
Yeah, because it makes sense. It's an investment to pay your accountant.
Yeah. Yes, there's so much more value. Yes, I'm going to pay him more than I would pay another CPA, but the value I get out of it is immense. And then, let's be honest, you're buying access too. Like, we have access to things that I bring to my clients now, and they're happy. They're happy because they didn't have access to, like, the well fund. They didn't have it. They don't know how to do that sort of thing. Like me, I wanted to do that, but I didn't know how to accomplish that. So I bring that to people, and they're like, man, this is great. So they want to buy that kind of access.
Yeah.
The energy deal that we did, the renewable energy deal. The way I viewed that was, if I don't tell my clients about this, or for
They're
that
losing
matter,
money.
or for that matter, my friends, I'm not a very nice guy. Because that is a very good deal. And if I didn't tell them about it, if they find out about it later, they're like, man, why don't you tell me about that?
Mm-hmm. I have a story to tell about a sale I was doing just last week. And I know that the guy I'm talking about is going to listen to this, and we're also bringing him on the podcast pretty soon. But he was saying we were like $200 more expensive than his current CPA. And he was considering not doing it. And I was like, look at this. It costs this much to get your taxes done. It costs $200 to work with us. That's not a bad deal. Like, this price is what it costs. Like, that's just what it costs to get your taxes done. And then we cost $200. Like, if you think about it that way, like, it makes sense. And that's where we provide the value. We're going to provide way more than $200 worth of value. And then he closed and paid.
Yeah. I heard Cardone talking about that when he was selling cars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so here's the thing is, I listened to that video the same morning on Cardone University and used that close later that day, and it worked.
Do you know what he's talking about, Ian?
I don't. I was just actually about to ask. What are y'all talking about here? It sounds
so Cardone was selling a car when he was selling cars back in the day, and the car was more expensive than the guy could have got it down the road. And he said, "Yeah, here's what the car cost. What would it was like? I don't remember.
It was like a $2,000 difference.
$2,000. Okay, car cost that. It's $2,000 more because you get me." And the guy's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Let's do it."
And here's another quote that I also got out of Cardone University. I say so many Grant Cardone quotes on this podcast, but I'm training every day on his platform, so that's where it comes from. But he said, people don't want to be sold anything. They want to be serviced, and then they want to buy something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the way it works. And if you have that perspective, it really changes what you're doing. Like, I'm not going to try to hard press this guy to close. I'm going to give him value, and then he's going to buy something from me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been challenged with creating what we're calling the number one client experience. How do we make the experience of being a client of Croft and Frost so unparalleled. No one's going to want to go anywhere else. So that has been my JD's challenge to me, which I think is a great challenge. I love it. I mean, it's primarily based on service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are some ideas you're tossing around for that number one client never going to leave because they're getting such a great experience?
One, we have to perform. We have
Mm-hmm.
to perform. I mean, that's the ultimate. But if you perform, but don't communicate, they're probably going to leave. Right? So communication is key. So I've got with my team, and we've laid out, all right, here's the roadmap. Here's your daily action plan. Here's how many clients you now get to call. Don't have to call. You get to call these people now. And your job is to build a relationship with them. So for me, I'm calling mine once a month. They're going to hear from me whether they want to or not. And sometimes it may not be any conversations, and that's okay. But they're going to talk to me 12 times a year minimum. Yeah. And having this the 4 foundations of wealth creation, there are plenty of opportunities to communicate with them. We're having the Onward experience February 24th in Chattanooga. That is another great reason to call our clients, because if they really like what we're doing, they're going to want to attend that event. That is going to be a killer event. Ian should go to that event.
Yeah, Ian will be there.
I think Tim already tried to recruit me.
Yeah, you got to go. It's going to be. It's going. This is the first one. JD had similar ones in the past, but this is the first one called the first Onward. And I think it's going to grow into something very, very special.
Yep. 10x level. It's going to change the way you think.
There's no doubt.
All right, I'll be there.
No doubt.
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
I think you already did that.
Can I count on you? I've sent you a lot of links for the stuff we're doing. I keep my people in the loop.
He does. He really does.
I forgot what I was going to say. So back to not only providing service, but you have to perform. And I was listening to a video today, and I don't even know what it was about, and I actually only listened to like a minute of it. But I remember him saying that he bought something from this company that claims to have the best customer service in the world. And he's like, and they do, but they don't tell you that their product sucks.
Yeah.
and so he was trashing this company that had great customer service. He called them and they, took care of everything, but it didn't change the fact that the product was terrible.
Yeah. What we have is very, very special. It's not just taxes. Like we're improving people's lives. Mm-hmm. And like for me, and for my family and a lot of other people that I speak with, giving is very important. Like, so I have a philosophy with money that you have to do 3 things with it. You have to give some, spend some, and save some. And I tried doing any combination of those 3, and I was just dissatisfied. It's like something wasn't working. When I did all of those things, I finally felt fulfilled with money. And there was a big difference. Like you have to do all 3 of those pieces. And for me, when spending money seems like it's the easy part. That was for me the hardest part, because I was afraid to spend because I didn't know when the next dollar was coming. So I would just hoard, and I wouldn't spend any money. And then I started doing budgets. And we still do a monthly budget as a family. We still do it. And that was just permission to spend. Then when I went and spent, whether we went on vacation or if I went on a golf trip with the boys, I was much more at ease spending the money because it was permission. I had the permission from last month, Matt, to spend that money. And it just became a lot easier. And then investing money, I had a big fear of what I do with it. And having something like the wealth fund and investing in real estate, I just want to dump as much in as I can now. Like I have an account now that I just store money. And every time there's 50 grand in that account, I send it. It's gone. So everything becomes a lot easier. And when you have a plan like that, when you've got a plan with every dollar that comes in, and you got to give some, you're going to spend some, and you're going to save some, it just becomes so much easier. Life becomes a lot easier. For me personally, I become more patient. I become a better dad, a better husband, a better friend, just more at ease.
I find that the giving one is honestly the most fulfilling to me.
Oh, no doubt.
Giving is just, oh man. And that, I think that's also another big thing behind people coming back to wealth. A lot of people love to have the luxury of security. I think a lot of it is being able to give as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the things that y'all teach in the Onward as well?
We don't specifically say it. It's part of what I do. So I was talking to a client today, and she's getting $150,000 bonus in like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And she's like, I don't know what to do with it. So I'm like, here's what you do with it. You got to give some, you got to spend some, you got to save some. So they already gave, but they didn't know how much. I'm like, well, whatever you're typically giving, just use a percentage. That's what you do. It's like, and for something like this, you need to celebrate it too. You got to go spend some. Do something stupid with it. Something fun. And then the rest, you be responsible with the rest. Put some in the wealth fund. I think she mentioned something about she wanted to go to Hawaii. There's enough money to go to Hawaii. You should do that.
Tim's loving the wealth fund plugs right now. I already know it.
Oh yeah. We're currently raising money for a real estate deal. So that's what I've been talking about most of today to people. So are you by any chance a follower of Dave Ramsey with his budgeting principles, or
yes,
or where do you stand there?
I like Dave Ramsey, even though you would think I wouldn't, because I've been in the life insurance business for 20 years. So I was a financial mess, and Dave got me out of that financial mess. I also understand that I've graduated from Dave. Now, I still apply some of the same principles in my day-to-day life that Dave uses. And I also recognize that Dave is marketing towards a certain set of people. I am no longer in that set of people. So, but there's always going to be a revolving door of people who are in debt. And once you get out and you have mastered the principles that he teaches, great.
Yeah. And then at that point, maybe it's not for you anymore, but that doesn't mean that he's wrong.
No. I followed it to a T. I mean, Tim, I taught it at my church for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Dave. He's great. He serves a purpose. There's no doubt. And he's right. And you're not going to win an argument with him, because his argument is, if you're this, then do this. Right? He doesn't go outside of that. And his black and white world is, if you're this is what you do.
Yeah. I listen to some of his videos pretty often, and you hear people ask questions, and having listened to Dave Ramsey as much as I have, it's like, what his answer is going to be. And it's like, well, why is this person asking? What he's going to say.
Yeah, for sure.
And but I've run into people that absolutely have terrible things to say about Dave Ramsey, and I was curious.
Yeah. No, I got nothing bad to say. I mean, I have learned to use debt as a positive wealth making tool. I no longer have bad debt. Bad debt will just drown you. But debt that produces income that is paid for by somebody else, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Cool.
I was telling my wife last night, I said, I think JD was talking about it last night too. And I can't remember exactly, but if you can't write it off, if it doesn't produce income, or you can't pay for it in cash, don't buy it.
Yeah.
So we were just we just bought a big SUV. It's expensive. We write the whole thing off.
Yeah.
So why would we not do that? I mean, I wouldn't go just buy that just for the sake of buying it, but we needed a big SUV. So it fit the profile of my philosophy with money and met a need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't want to spend $1 to save a dime.
No.
But if you need to spend that $1 and you're going to save money,
right,
you should.
Yeah, no doubt. And it made the purchase of that vehicle way easier, knowing that I'm going to save. I know how much my tax bill is going to be lower this year because I purchased it. So in April or October, whenever we file, I know my tax bill is going to be X amount less.
Mm-hmm.
I also got 0% financing on the deal too. So that truck will actually make me money this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that you learn being around the people that think this way.
Yep.
Because some people will, maybe they know if I buy a vehicle at the end of the year, I can write it off, but do I have to pay cash for it? Do I have to spend $60,000 on this vehicle in cash to write it off? Or, that's the type of stuff that not everybody knows. Most accountants hopefully do know.
Yeah. And then using other people's money is it's something that you can get ahead pretty quickly by you. I mean, if I'd have paid cash for that car, it would have been a net loss for a few years. But by not paying cash for it, it's going to be a net win for a couple, probably, I think 2 years, it'll be a net win. And then I'll pay the thing off in 3 years, if not sooner. Then now I got an asset. The thing made me money. Now it's paid off, and now I have an asset.
Yeah, it changed the way you think.
Depreciating assets, sure, but
sure,
asset nonetheless, it'll be worth something.
Yeah. So let's jump into advice. So the last question will be any advice you have for the listeners. But first, you also covered this. What book have you given away or recommended the most?
No doubt it's The Compound Effect.
For sure.
But 10x any other book I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to read that because of you guys now.
You should. And you're going to start seeing it everywhere for some reason. It tends to happen.
Well, Google's listening to us right now.
Yeah. Well, it's been people saying it with their mouth, not just Google, but yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're shopping for a red Chevy truck, you're going to start noticing red Chevy trucks all over the place. Mm-hmm. They're always there, but now you're aware of them, which leads me to my piece of advice: awareness. Awareness, I think, is the key to success. Because if you are unaware of what you're doing is hurting you or helping you, you'll likely continue. If you're unaware of what you're doing is hurting you, you'll continue to do that. If you're unaware of what you're doing is helping you, you won't know to keep doing it. And then my other bit of advice beyond awareness is tracking. But they kind of tie together. So when you're aware, then you can track. And when you start tracking, your awareness goes through the roof. And whatever you track will improve.
Boom. So I think we've covered everything. We got advice. We got book. Oh, here we go. What's the greatest lesson you've learned in the last 12 months?
To act quickly. Not overthink. Act quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's something I've been learning as well.
Trying not to add time to the process. If I can take time out of it, even if I'm wrong, if I take time out of it on my head.
There's a quote I heard in What It Takes by Steven Schwarzman. I was listening to it last month, and I wrote it down when I heard him say it. And I've heard Grant Cardone say it twice now, I think. And I think I heard JD say it since then. It was time wounds all deals.
Time wounds all deals. That's good.
Mm-hmm. The longer you wait, the worse it's going to get.
Yep. Time is bad. Time is bad because you think about it. Let's say you got a client with a problem and you don't get back to them, or in a relationship, you haven't communicated something with your spouse or a friend. They're going to be thinking about it, and naturally, their thoughts will go towards the negative, and it will continue to do that, and it will spiral. But if you can get out in front of it and just communicate right away, even if you're wrong, at least you communicated. So it could only get worse by not communicating. So communicate very quickly. You got a client with a problem, call them immediately.
That's some great advice.
It is. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to leave with the listeners?
Just to piggyback on that last thing there, problems are opportunities. Yeah, if you got a client, if you can solve a problem. I was talking about this with one of my guys Friday. There was a client with a problem. I said, man, if you solve that problem,
You're a hero.
He's going to buy from, not only you a hero, he's going to buy from you. And he did. He did. Fed sold that deal last week because he fixed the problem. And it elevated the guy's certainty. So the deal was closed as soon as the problem was solved.
Great. Where could someone find out more about you or possibly get in touch with you?
I'd say Instagram is probably the easiest way. All my information is on Instagram. Website, email, direct message. It's all right there.
Yeah.
What is it? At the Matt Dira.
The Matt Dira.
Dira. The Matt Dira.
Well, that's great. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who listened. I'm Tim Stone with Ian Cushing, and we are signing off.